Hi there. Ardamin, Clone 7, Chapter 1, Part 2. Ardamin stood before the three men. He was not a very tall man, just a bit over average at 6 feet even. His shoulders were broad but not excessively so. If you passed him in the street, you would probably said he was just another guy. You would never notice under the clothes that he was incredibly toned, mostly pure muscle without an extra ounce of fat. His white skin that meant that he had never suffered from being different, but he appreciated those who had. Over the years in the military, he had seen how men and women of colour were treated differently to him. Not huge differences, but they were there, and not overtly by military personnel. Mostly by civilians, and rarely overtly. And though he would never have thought he was handsome, he wasn't unattractive. He looked like a man in his early to mid-20s with dark brown hair in a typical military haircut. The three men looked like old world bikers. Black leather jackets, pants and gloves, as well as black helmets with blacked out visors. Ardamin assessed the threat without thinking. They were carrying handguns, 2 Glock 9mm semi-automatics and a Smith & Wesson .38 snub-nose. Their stance was aggressive but not threatening. Their guns were held so that they were pointing slightly towards the ground. Ardamin could feel the blood coursing through his veins, tensing his muscles and preparing him. His fight or flight response had started to kick in, but he knew there was no avenue to flee, so he automatically prepared for a fight. So far, they had shown no aggression towards him, at least. Not yet. The four men stood sizing each other up. Ardamin didn't have the protection that the leather jackets would offer. He was just wearing a camo shirt, pants and cap. He had flexibility on his side and his combat knife. They had leather jackets, heavy denim jeans and guns. They didn't stand a chance. Still, he had to give them a choice. They could walk away and live a better life, or they could die in the hot desert sun. Ardamin stated, "Walk away." He had a fairly deep voice, and he knew how to use it effectively. Being an officer in the army, he had learned how to use his voice to get orders across to his men. He never had to shout at his men. They knew if he was angry by the tone of his voice alone. The tallest of the three spoke. His voice was deep and menacing. "Why should we do that?" "Do so now, and you will still have the use of your legs." Ardamin was simply stating a fact from his perspective. All three men laughed, then pointed their weapons at Ardamin. The tallest one spoke whilst cocking his Glock. "Brave, but you're outgunned. We were going to take what you have in your pack and let you live. You are a human after all. Now, give us everything you have, including your clothes, and we may leave you with the use of your legs." Ardamin reached for his combat knife. "Easy, partner, or I'll shoot you," the smallest said, as all three men aimed their weapons at Ardamin's chest. He took out the knife slowly and tossed it open-handed towards the feet of the tallest. The three men relaxed their arms a little. Ardamin took off his pack and held it out in his left hand. The second of the tall men came forward, grabbed the backpack. He stepped back again to look into the backpack. "Strip!" the small one commanded. Ardamin cocked his head to the left and spoke quietly. "You have everything." "Strip!" the smallest yelled in a raspy, menacing voice. Ardamin undid the clip on his web belt. Then with one swift move, he ducked down and whipped himself around in 360 degrees. His brass buckle plus the weight of the water containers as they slid to the end of the belt hit each of the three in the knees. Their heavy clothing stopped the belt from breaking their knees, but it hurt like hell, and all three collapsed towards the ground. Unseen to the men, he removed his dagger from his boot. Ardamin then dove and rolled, crossing the small difference between himself and the three men before they could react and raise their guns. He drove it deep into the smaller man's leg. In pain, the smaller man dropped his revolver. Ardamin rolled over again behind the men, picking up the dropping revolver as he rolled in one swift movement. He pulled the trigger twice. It was louder than he expected. Guns always sounded louder in the field without ear protection. Both bullets hit their targets, the knees. He cocked his head to the opposite side than before as he stood looking at the three men. All three men screamed as they collapsed to the ground. Ardamin picked up the other two weapons, examining them in turn as the men tried their best to stifle their screams and rein in the pain excreting from their legs. You need to make a life or death decision. Ardamin spoke softly. You can try to hobble back to your vehicle before they arrive. Or if you ask me nicely, I will put you out of your misery. Your choice. Fuck you! A voice came from under the visor. Ardamin could hear the spittle in his voice. Then your choice is made. Good luck. Ardamin picked up his things and placed two of the guns inside his backpack. Before I go, he said, replacing his belt and sheathing his combat knife back into its scabbard, empty your pockets. I want your ammo and keys. The three men just rolled around on the ground, cradling their bloodied legs. Now, or I search your dead bodies, he said quietly, which made it sound even more threatening. The two taller men took out their spare clips while the smaller man dug out the loose bullets from his pockets, spilling them onto the ground beside him. Ardamin kept the revolver pointed towards the tallest man as he picked up the clips and keys without taking his eyes from the men. He walked around and picked up half of the rounds scattered on the ground. He then grabbed his dagger from the smaller man's leg. He screamed in pain, and a hollow cry could be heard in the distance. Ardamin smiled, wiped the blood from the blade and inserted it back into his boot. I'm not a cruel man. I'll tell you what, I'll leave you 2 sets of keys by the bikes. Make it to the bikes, and you'll live. If not, well, you know what's out there as much as I do. As if on cue, a second hollow cry echoed in the distance. I think I'll leave it there. Okay, that's marked. Isn't it? Yep, it is. Okay, that's marked. I'll leave it there and post another one next week. Bye.